Did you know that we can actually love people to death? Well, we can. Hi, I'm Gina. Here at Hope and Cope, we talk about essential skills we need to have our best life in spite of painful and sometimes even tragic events and situations. I had this stunning experience one time in an Al-Anon meeting that was an open Al-Anon meeting, so we had people in there that were also in rehab, and this young man shared a story that his mother had been his enabler and that she was only trying to help him, but that literally it just almost killed him, all of her enabling, and that he was sure that it was not her intentions at all, but yet it kept him in the cycle of addiction longer and longer because of her enabling. Clearly, that's not anyone's intentions when they are trying to help someone that is in the middle of an addiction. But all too often, the waters get muddied and we don't really know the best way to help. And sometimes our actions are actually enabling that person to stay in their addiction longer. So how do we avoid enabling? Well, that's the million-dollar question, and it's not one that's easy to answer. And even after we get an answer, we get some kind of an idea of what we should and shouldn't do, it's even harder to implement. And then past implementation, it's harder to be consistent. So the topic of enabling is very, very challenging. There shouldn't be judgment on enabling because we are all just doing our best. I mean, unless I don't know your heart and you really aren't even trying to do your best and you don't care about that other person, which I highly doubt, we are all just doing our best in the situation with the knowledge we have, the resources we have, the strength of character we have, the support we have. We're all just doing the best we can to help our loved ones in their times of addiction. So let's talk a little bit about what enabling is. And in my mind, there's kind of two parts to it. And one is trying to prevent consequences. So our consequences are kind of like guardrails. They kind of tell us what's acceptable and not acceptable, and what is pleasing to have in our life and what's not pleasing to have in our life, and what works and what doesn't work. So if we try to prevent natural consequences of their behavior, then we are actually enabling that disease to continue in that person's life. So an example is when my husband did have his own business, people would call and need him, and he would be home in bed and not able to be attentive to his work at all. And instead of me lying about it, I would just say he's not available, he can't come to the phone, and I will tell him, and he will call you when he can. I didn't just tell anyone that called, that he's in his bed drunk and that he's got an addiction and this family's falling apart and we're probably going to lose the business. I didn't say things like that, but I also didn't make excuses. I just said, he can't come to the phone, I will tell him, and he will call you when he can. So that was the best I could do. I tried not to lie, but also I wasn't going to air everything that was going on just to anyone that called looking for him. Another sticky situation that I was in during my husband's years of addiction was that for the most part, we lived together in the same house. And it's hard to let someone pay consequences of their actions when that would also affect you. So for instance, I paid the bills because I wanted my lights on and I wanted my security with my home, and I mowed the grass because I wanted my grass mowed, and I got groceries in because I wanted food in the house, but everything would seem relatively normal, and so it was hard for me to let consequences take effect to that extent because I did want all the same things that would have been kind of a natural cause. So that was kind of a challenge. I did not know that time was crucial and that I was just enabling the process of the addiction. But I mean, for many families that the wife stays in the home, it's both of their homes, they both contribute. I couldn't have moved out and kept an apartment on my own income, and so I did need his income and he needed me, certainly. So for people that do that, there's just less options for letting them face those kind of natural consequences. Like if they don't pay their bills and they don't keep their job and they don't mow the grass, they don't do the laundry, they don't do the dishes, those are just more natural consequences that hopefully they will see more readily if they are living independent of you. one thing I want to say here, and this was taught to me by Anon, and I always put Al-Anon in my description box because it's such a part of my recovery. And that is, they taught us never to cause false consequences, never try to wreck things for the person. And that would mean like, calling the person's boss and saying they're doing XYZ and you need to fire them, or calling the person's girlfriend and saying, do you know what they're doing? So just kind of letting the consequences come naturally, keeping your hands kind of off and not being in it and trying to make things worse. Just let life take its course, I think, is the best course of action. So we talked about the first side, I feel like, of enabling is trying to prevent natural consequences. But the other part of enabling is the giving of money, the buying of drugs for them, the picking up all the slack for the things that they are doing financially and maybe relationally, the obligations that they have. Just really coming in there and losing sight of who you are and doing all those things that need to be done on that person's behalf so that they can continue in their addiction. When you are a nurturer, one thing that's kind of a challenge is that person can just call or stop by and they just tell you their problems and, I need new tires, or, my battery keeps dying on my car, and blah, blah, blah. And we offer to help. We offer to do those things for that person. And if we don't recognize that this person is in an addiction, we can do those things and we're actually enabling. They're going to take the money we give them for kids, shoes for the kids, or to buy a battery for their car, and they're going to use that for drugs. So I just recommend trying to recognize who you are dealing with, and if they are being honest, and if there's a genuine need, and even still maybe actually going with them to this auto place and getting the battery and paying them directly. I have even heard sad stories of grandparents buying Christmas for the grandkids, and then once they get them, they take them all back from their own children and take the money and spend it on drugs. Unfortunately, many times when you're dealing with an addict and they say, like I just said, I need a battery for my car, or the kids need shoes, what we need to understand is, for the most part, they don't even realize the things that are going on that are falling into disrepair. They're only coming up with an excuse to get money, to get you to buy something, even if they go back and take it back later so they can get the cash. Because what happens, unfortunately, is they're kind of disassociated from the things that are really falling apart on the outside, like the grass needing to be mowed, the bills needing to be paid, being on their third strike at work. All of these things can just be wiped away by the next use of their drug of choice. And so those things don't weigh heavily on them like they do us. Some of the best advice that I received during those really hard years was to try to be strong when that person was around. Maybe they would tell you some life situation that was really hard. Maybe they're getting kicked out of their apartment, or they are on their last strike at work, or they've been fired, different things like that. And then we go crazy and we try to think of how we can rescue them and what we can do to fix it. But the advice that I was given was to just try to be really strong while in that person's presence. Try not to act like you're taking their burden on yourself, even if you feel like you are and you can feel the weight of it coming on you, that you're going to just try to say things that are positive, but you're putting them back on that person. So you're showing that person that you have confidence that no matter how hard things are, they can figure it out. So you're going to say things like, wow, that's really tough. I'm sorry that happened, but you know what? You're a smart person and I know you can figure this out. You've got a lot of talent. I know you can figure this out. We can say, you have been through harder things. I know you can figure this out. Try to just say things that puts the responsibility back on them to figure out their situation, and give them the full confidence that you know they can do it. When we go behind them and try to fix things, well, I'm going to call your boss. I'm going to see if I can get your job back. Or, I'm going to fix this for you. I'm going to pay your rent up the last 3 months and get your lease renewed, and I'm gonna this and I'm gonna that, then what we're really saying to them, I mean, in the moment they're really happy, right, that we're gonna save them and rescue them, but what we're really saying is, I have to do it because you're not smart enough to do it. I have to do it because you're not mature enough to do it. I have to do it because you don't have the capacity to do it. So it's better to say, I have full confidence that you can figure this out. I have full confidence that you will find a solution, and I'm rooting for you, and I'm here for you, and maybe you don't say I'm here for you, but I'm rooting for you. I am your biggest cheerleader. I know you're going to figure it out. And we just put it right back, gently right back onto them. I hope this was helpful. That's always my desire. And the same thing with the next video I have coming up right after this one. And I always add extra encouragement in the description box, so check that out when you get a chance. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It really means a lot. And then share it with a friend. Right now I'm posting content twice a week, and so I look forward to seeing you in the next one. God bless.